morning. Good morning, everyone. Georgianne asked me to share my Vistage story, so I'm going to do that. I'm the typical corporate guy who opened his own business, and I'm that lunatic. And when I look back at the things I enjoyed most about being in big corporates, I was with Price Waterhouse, I was with PwC, I was with AstraZeneca, and I was with Gillette and some big organizations. When I think back about what I enjoyed most about working with those big companies was I was surrounded. Anyone in the room worked for those big companies, some big corporations? Hands up, lots of people. I realized I was surrounded by just the smartest, most engaged, brightest, big intellectual. I was in those environments. Really smart people around me all the time. And, also I was in environments I was fortunate, really good leadership. I worked with some real good leaders. They had real good corporate processes. They were developing people all the time. And, we would get great speakers like David today. David was absolutely fantastic today. And then I started my own business. And do you know who have I got? I looked around me. I didn't have anybody. I only had the guy in the mirror. And, I thought the guy in the mirror was really smart. And I was convinced, I'm still convinced, actually, that I'm really, only my wife that doesn't believe that, I think. But I was running from fire. I'm running from fire to fire to fire. And the guy in the mirror, my Vistage group has explained to me many times, is the arsonist. I'm running fire to fire to fire. I'm running so fast that I don't really know which direction I'm running in. And I read, and there was a moment when I read, and I explained this to Carl at the back. I read Jim Rohn, who said, and I read this one part of his book which said, "You are the average of the 5 closest relationships." Anyone heard that quote? Right. That was life-changing for me, because I just stopped and I looked around me. And, with the greatest of respect, I was in, and some of you will be part, I was in the chambers, and I had lots of great clients, and I was in chambers, and I was in B&I, and I looked around me and I thought, am I really the average of 5 of these guys? That is not what I started my own business to achieve. I need a different group. I really do. Do you remember me explaining that to you? I really need a different group. I needed to up my game on the people I was interacting with, the advice I was getting. I needed somebody to keep me well-directed, because left to my own devices, I'm going to run fire to fire to fire. And do you know what? It's terrible. The worst thing about running fire to fire is that it actually was working a little bit. I figured out the faster I ran, the more money I made. If it didn't work, I wouldn't have done it, but it worked just a little bit, just enough to make me think that was the right thing to do. And I needed somebody, and I have 2 compasses in my life. I have my wife, who on a personal level keeps me well directed, and she's tough. And I have Georgianne on a professional level that keeps me well directed, and she's equally tough. I needed to have somebody sort of flush out because there were some truths, I call them convenient truths. I was way too busy for Vistage. That's a convenient truth. It is true that a CEO running faster and faster from fire to fire hasn't got time for anything. That is a convenient truth. But it's absolutely true that I make time for the things that are important. All CEOs do. It is a convenient truth that I know my business better than anybody else. I do know my business better than anybody else. It's conveniently true. But it's absolutely true that business is business, and challenge is really powerful. And the Vistage group I'm in does challenge my understanding of my business. It is conveniently true that I am the smartest guy in the world. Conveniently true, the smartest guy I know. It's absolutely true that I'm not the smartest guy. And it is conveniently true that when my Vistage group and Georgianne gives me stuff to do, it's more problems and it's more work. Challenge is problems. But then it absolutely is true that when I'm challenged, I usually fix more than I break. So Vistage has been a life changer for me. I've got a group of people who I can go to, who can make me focus on the important rather than the urgent. I was pretty arrogant at the time when I joined, because I probably am very arrogant, but I was arrogant in that I thought I was joining for the peer group. I kind of knew the agenda was half a speaker and half a peer group. And I thought, I've seen those speakers. And in corporate America, in corporate land that I was in, we had some fantastic speakers that we used to get. I had the guy once, the guy from Alive, the film Alive, where the plane crashes and they eat each other and survive. One of the guys, one of the three that survived, he was a crap speaker. And then we got Sterling Moss. Anybody know who Sterling Moss is? That's like British sporting royalty. He was terrible. Must have cost a fortune to get Sterling Moss. So I thought, those speakers are going to be garbage, but I'll want the peer group. Wow, every single month those speakers changed my business in some way or other. I've been amazed at the quality and the application, the practical speakers that Georgianne gets for us. So it was life-changing for me, and the life-changing moments were recognizing that I am the average of my 5 closest relationships, and that really wasn't something to be proud of at the time. I think I'm proud now of my 5 closest relationships. Thank you.